The tremor beneath their feet wasn't just movement, it was a warning, primal and overwhelming, that something vast and ancient was stirring. The crystalline structure on the altar pulsed violently now, its light no longer cold, but searing, casting wild, distorted shadows across the chamber walls. The carvings seemed to writhe in the flickering illumination, their serpentine shapes appearing alive. "We need to move," Eliza shouted, her voice rising above the crackling noise in their comms. Clara stumbled backward, her breathing ragged. "It's reacting to us. We triggered something." "Then let's untrigger it by getting the hell out of here," Wren barked, already retreating toward the doorway. As the team hurried out of the chamber, the vibrations intensified. The ground beneath the city buckled and shifted, sending plumes of silt and debris into the water. A low, guttural sound resonated around them, a growl that wasn't just heard but felt, a sound that made their bones ache and their stomachs churn. Liam's voice crackled in their earpieces. "Guys, I'm getting serious movement on sonar. Something's coming your way, something big." "How big?" Julian asked, his voice tight as he followed the others through the ruins. "Bigger than the sub," Liam replied. "And it's fast." The team broke into a desperate run, their tethers swaying behind them as they navigated the labyrinthine pathways. The lights from their suits cut through the water, but the ruins around them seemed darker now, more oppressive. Every shadow felt alive, every flicker of movement a threat. A sound like tearing metal reverberated through the water. The team froze, turning back toward the chamber they had just escaped. A fissure had opened in the ocean floor, and from its depths emerged a massive form. The Leviathan was unlike anything they had imagined. Its translucent body shimmered with an iridescent glow, revealing grotesque internal organs that pulsated like diseased hearts. Rows of jagged teeth spiraled inward within a cavernous maw, surrounded by tendrils that writhed and flexed. The creature's eyes, dozens of them, glowing with an alien intelligence, scanned the ruins, locking onto the intruders. "Oh my God," Clara whispered, her voice trembling. "That's it." The Leviathan lunged forward with terrifying speed, its massive form rippling through the water. The team scrambled, the currents from its movement throwing them off balance. One of its tendrils lashed out, narrowly missing Julian as he dove behind a crumbled pillar. "Back to the sub!" Eliza yelled, grabbing Clara by the arm and pulling her toward safety. Wren was already ahead, hauling Julian to his feet as they made their way through the ruins. Liam's voice came through again, more frantic this time. "It's heading right for you. I'm powering up the sub's defenses, but you've got to move." The creature roared again, the sound distorting the water around it. Another tendril shot forward, this time hitting one of the obelisks. The structure crumbled instantly, shards of stone raining down and narrowly missing the team. Clara tripped over a piece of debris, falling hard onto the ground. Her tether yanked taut as Eliza pulled her up. "Move, Clara. Now!" They reached the plaza where the submersible waited, its lights cutting through the murky water like a beacon. Liam had activated the external floodlights, illuminating the ruins in stark detail. The Leviathan followed, its massive body coiling and uncoiling as it closed the distance. Wren was the first to reach the sub, fumbling with the airlock controls. Come on," he muttered, his hands shaking as he punched the override codes. The hatch hissed open, and he dove inside, turning to help Julian in after him. Eliza and Clara weren't far behind, but the creature was faster. It surged forward, one of its tendrils striking the submersible with a force that made the entire structure shudder. Liam cursed over the comms. "Hurry up! It's trying to crush the sub!" Clara climbed inside, her movements frantic. Eliza followed, but the Leviathan lashed out again. This time, one of its barbed tendrils caught Ren's tether, pulling him back out of the hatch. Ren screamed, thrashing against the pull, but the barb had pierced his suit. A dark, viscous substance oozed from the wound, spreading across his body. His skin bubbled and warped, his screams turning to gurgles as his limbs contorted unnaturally. "Ren!" Julian shouted, reaching for him, but Eliza pulled him back. "He's gone!" she yelled, slamming the hatch shut just as another tendril struck the submersible. The entire structure groaned under the impact, alarms blaring inside the cabin. Liam didn't wait. "We're out of here!" He engaged the thrusters, the submersible lurching forward. The Leviathan gave chase, its massive form almost effortless in the water. It struck the sub again, denting the hull and sending sparks flying from the control panels. "We can't take much more of this," Liam shouted, his hands flying over the controls. "Systems are failing under the pressure." Eliza grabbed Clara, who was hyperventilating in her seat. "Focus. We need to think. It's not just chasing us, it's hurting us." "Back to the city," Julian said, realization dawning on his face. "It's trying to trap us there." The Leviathan roared again, the sound reverberating through the cabin. Outside, the ruins loomed closer, the spires like jagged teeth waiting to swallow them whole. "We woke it up," Clara said, her voice barely audible. "We disturbed it. This city wasn't just a home, it was a prison." The Nautilus 7 groaned under the pressure of the depths, every strike from the Leviathan reverberating through its reinforced hull like the toll of a death knell. Inside the submersible, the crew clung to their stations, sweat mingling with salt water that dripped from damaged pipes. The walls shuddered again as the Leviathan struck, its barbed tendrils scraping across the metal like nails on bone. "We can't outrun it," Liam yelled, his voice strained. Sparks flew from his console as another impact rocked the craft. The engines sputtered, the hum of the thrusters faltering. "We're not trying to outrun it anymore," Eliza said, her voice low but steady. She leaned over Julian, pointing to the navigation screen. "That chamber, the altar, it's the only thing it seems to care about. If we can get back there and—" "And what?" Clara interrupted, her face pale, her breathing ragged. "We can't kill that thing. Ren tried, and now he's—" Her voice broke, and she buried her face in her hands. Julian touched her shoulder briefly, his own expression grim. "We're not killing it. We're going to give it what it wants. Or at least convince it that we have." Eliza nodded. "That crystalline structure. Whatever power it's tied to, it's connected to the creature. It was a prison, but it's also its lifeline. If we can disrupt it, it might kill us along with it," Liam said sharply, his hands gripping the controls. "That thing isn't going to let us waltz back into its lair." "It's already killing us," Julian replied. "It's only a matter of time before the hull gives out, or we run out of air." A tense silence fell over the cabin, broken only by the deep, guttural roar of the Leviathan as it closed in again, its massive form looming outside the observation dome. The lights flickered as its tentacles brushed against the submersible, testing its prey. Liam exhaled shakily. Fine. But if this fails, I'm not sticking around to watch us implode. The submersible lurched as he turned it sharply, maneuvering back toward the ruins. The city loomed ahead like a maw waiting to swallow them whole, its spires jagged silhouettes against the faint, bioluminescent glow of the abyss. Behind them, the Leviathan pursued, its movements deliberate, unhurried, as if it knew they had nowhere to run. As they approached the central plaza, the sub's external lights illuminated the shattered remnants of the altar chamber. The crystalline structure still pulsed faintly, its light dim and erratic. The Leviathan roared, the sound rattling the submersible, and for a moment the lights flickered out entirely. In the pitch darkness, the creature's glowing eyes were all that could be seen, burning with an otherworldly fury. "Eliza," Julian said, his voice trembling but resolute, "if this thing is alive, if it's connected to the creature, then disrupting it might not just distract it. It might destroy it." "Or us," Clara whispered. "It's a risk we have to take," Eliza said firmly. "If we don't, no one will ever know what happened here. This thing won't stay confined forever." The submersible touched down near the ruins, its systems groaning under the strain. Eliza and Julian worked quickly, preparing the charges they had salvaged from the emergency supplies. The explosives weren't meant for this kind of environment, but they would have to do. The Leviathan struck again, harder this time, its tendrils wrapping around the submersible. Metal screamed as the hull began to buckle. Liam's voice was frantic over the comms. "We're out of time. It's going to crush us." "Set the charges," Eliza yelled. "We just need to buy a few seconds." Julian finished arming the last charge and nodded. "Done." Eliza turned to Liam. "Get us as far away as you can, now." The engines roared to life, sputtering but functional. The submersible lurched forward, away from the ruins, as the Leviathan thrashed in fury. Its tendrils lashed out, one of them grazing the sub and sending a shower of sparks through the cabin. Eliza watched the navigation screen intently. Wait for it. Wait. The Leviathan reared back, its massive body coiling around the ruins, its glowing eyes fixed on the submersible. It hesitated, drawn back toward the altar, as if sensing its connection to the crystalline structure was in jeopardy. "Now!" Eliza shouted. Liam hit the detonator. The charges erupted in a deafening explosion that rocked the ocean floor, sending shockwaves through the ruins. The crystalline structure shattered, its light extinguished in a brilliant flash. The spires collapsed inward, burying the chamber in a cloud of debris. The Leviathan let out a sound unlike anything they had heard before, a mix of rage and agony that reverberated through the water. It writhed violently, its body convulsing as if torn apart by an unseen force. The lights in its eyes dimmed, flickered, and finally went dark. For a moment there was only silence. Then the ruins began to crumble. The shockwave had destabilized the entire city, and the ocean floor split open, sending plumes of silt and rock into the water. Liam pushed the submersible's engines to their limit, navigating through the collapsing ruins as debris rained down around them. "We're not going to make it," Clara screamed, gripping her seat. "Yes, we are," Liam snapped, his hands steady on the controls. The submersible surged forward, narrowly avoiding a falling column, and broke free of the ruins just as the city collapsed entirely, vanishing into the darkness below. The crew sat in stunned silence, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. The ocean around them was calm again, eerily so. The Leviathan was gone. The ruins were gone. Only the endless expanse of the abyss remained. Eliza closed her eyes, her body trembling with exhaustion. "We did it." "Did we?" Julian asked quietly, staring out at the void. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't just a monster. It was a guardian. We destroyed it. But what happens now that it's gone? No one answered. The weight of his words hung heavy in the cabin as Liam guided the battered submersible upward toward the distant light of the surface. As they ascended, Eliza watched the darkness below, half expecting the glowing eyes of the Leviathan to reappear. But the abyss was silent, its secrets buried once more. For now,